Hey everybody, this is Daxon here with Knoxside.org. In this video I kind of want to go over how you can hook up a CD player, an in-dash CD player in a vehicle, as well as subwoofers. See, there's a lot of other videos online here, even here on YouTube, where people going through showing you how to do things. But I wanted to give you more of an overall picture of actually what goes where, because there's so many different kinds of vehicles out there. It's impossible to show you exactly each step for each vehicle. So in this case, I'm just going to show you, what goes where, how you hook up what to what, and the different colors that your wires will normally be. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, you can see over here that I drew this little car. It don't look very good, but it'll work. Basically, this is the front of our car over here, and then this gray part is the trunk of the car. And you can also, this same thing works for an SUV or a truck or anything else. I mostly have experience with doing it in cars, so this is what I chose to do for my example here. So we can go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw. Let's make it yellow, and this will be our CD player. It'll normally be like right here, right in the dash of your vehicle. Okay. Now you'll have all the different wires up here in your CD player, and you'll want to get, of course, your aftermarket CD player, so you can hook up subwoofers to it. You will want to get your fitter kit, which actually is the plastic that fits the CD player into your vehicle, because there's double DIN and there's single DIN depending on the size of the CD player. You also want a wiring harness to run these new wires to the current wires that are already in your vehicle. And then you want an antenna adapter, most likely, which will adapt the antenna from your vehicle into your new CD player for your radio. But overall, that's mostly self-explanatory. The colors will just hook to the colors, and then you'll plug a couple things in, make it fit good, and look nice. And one thing I want to go ahead and throw out there, some older vehicles, even some newer ones, some people have a problem that the CD player isn't coming on, or it's not going off. Like when you shut off the vehicle, it's not going off. And there's actually a pretty simple fix to that. What you'll do is you'll have a red wire running from your CD player, and that is, I believe it's called like the ignition wire. What you'll want to do is run a wire from that to, it'll be a separate wire that you hook onto it, but you'll run that wire to the ignition fuse in your vehicle. That way when you turn on your vehicle, the CD player will come on. If you shut off your vehicle, it will shut it off. Anyway, that's enough for so far as the CD player. Let's go ahead and get to the subwoofers, which is a little bit more in depth and usually takes quite a bit more time to accomplish. But overall, it's not too hard. So we have our CD player. Say it's already all hooked up and everything. And then let's make our amp. I'm just gonna make the amp a really dark color here in the back. Okay. So here is, make our amp here, and then of course you'll have your subs back here in a box in your trunk or wherever exactly you're gonna put it. You can just pretend for this example this could be a 1 subwoofer box, 2, you could be hooking up 4. It doesn't really matter. It depends on your personal setup that you're wanting to go for. The first things first, though, up here in the front, I'll make it red. You have your battery on one side of your vehicle, under the hood, of course. And what you'll do is to get power to your amplifier back here that is actually going to, give the power to your subwoofers. You want to take your big red wire, which you can buy like at Walmart. You can get a kit, of all the wires. But if not, you want to really, this will be your biggest wire because it's carrying your current of power. You'll take this wire and you'll run it however you can see that's the best way to do it, through the side of your vehicle to make it look good, and it will hook to your amp into the power spot. It looks different on every amp, but it should be able to tell you. If not, look at the directions and that's where your red cable will go, and that'll obviously hook on the positive of your battery. Another wire you'll have, of course, that goes with this is your ground. Your ground will be most likely a brown wire if you're buying one of the kits that has all the wires in it, like I mentioned. But like I said, the colors of wires don't really matter, it just makes it a little bit easier, so I'm going off of those colors. The brown wire, of course, you could either run it off the negative side of your battery. What most people do is they'll find a good metal bolt in their trunk, and they'll run, oops, I need to get a brown color to follow what I'm saying here, sorry about that. Your ground will run from that bolt, and it too will hook to your amp in the negative spot. Okay, so now we have the basic components. We have the power running from the battery to the amp, and our ground running to our amp. Now, normally when you get speaker wire, it'll be like 18 gauge or 16 gauge, even 20 or 22 gauge sometimes, depending, you know, on the size of your speakers. And at Walmart or most places, there'll be smaller wires, and you'll have two. Each sub, let's say we have two subs here. We'll have our positive and a negative from that sub. We'll have a positive and a negative from that sub, and you'll see the plus and negative on each sub, and that's where you hook up those wires. Just remember which one. So in this example, we're using a 2-channel, so we have 2 subs and 2 channels on our amp, or if you have a mono amp where you can hook up really as many subs as you want to it. But those will run in. You'll have smaller ports on your amp. There'll be 4 of them, a plus, a minus, a plus, and a minus. So you'll run the plus and minus from that sub into those terminals, and the plus and the minus from the other sub into those terminals. Okay. Next thing you will have, I'll draw that as white. These are normally like a white and black, or like a black and gray, but they're called a Y cable is what most people call them. These will actually run from the back of your CD player. And I don't ever run anything on the same side as the power, because it seems like you get interference and you can run into problems. But you'll have your Y cable, and I always run it on this side of the vehicle. And a Y cable just has little plugs on the end of it, so it'll just plug in, and then let's say the other one's black. But they'll be run together. They'll kind of twist together. They're usually about $10 for them when you buy it. But your Y cable will run right back here from the back of your CD player, and those will both plug into your amp, and the other end will both plug into your CD player. Now there's only one more wire we need, and it is called your RCA. Or not the RCA, excuse me. It's your remote wire, and it's normally a very small wire, like 24, 26 gauge, something like that. It's really, really small. And it'll typically be blue, so I'll make it even smaller here since it's really small. And that also will run from the back of your CD player. You'll have a remote wire running from the back of your CD player. You know, if your aftermarket, your new CD player. And I also run that on the same side as your RCA cables, your Y cables, whatever you want to call them, over here in the side of the vehicle. And your remote wire will plug also into your amp. It'll usually say remote or REM or something like that. Anyway, that is the basic setup of how to hook up subs in your car. Then you can follow directions or look up some other tutorials of the perfect settings for your amp. Normally you want the gain as low as possible, usually about a quarter or third of the way on your amp. And you also want your bass normally turned almost all the way down on your CD player. That way you're going to get really nice, clear sounding bass. Once again, we'll go over this one last time. We have our power running from our battery to our amp. We have our ground running from a bolt to our amp right here in the trunk. We have our RCA cables or our Y cables, same thing, that are twisted together. They plug in. They're not just raw wires. They actually plug into your CD player, and then they plug into your amp. You have the remote wire, which when you turn up your amp bass and things like that, it's going to control your amp for you. And it does a whole bunch of different things, carries the signal, and that'll hardwire to your CD player and hardwire to your amp. You'll have a spot for both of those. And then back here you have your speaker wire, a positive and a negative running from one sub to the positive and the negative on the amp for the speaker terminals, and then a positive and the negative for the other subwoofer running to, say, channel 2 or channel 1, whichever way you have it, onto your amp from the sub. Now, like I said, if you have a mono amp, there will normally only be 2 terminals, and you'll just fit, you know, say if you wanted to hook up 4 subs, you could do that, and then it would just split it, and you would run all those wires to the same one. You'd run all the positives in one terminal and then all the negatives into the other terminal for the speaker. Please do not get the ground and the power that actually controls and powers the amp confused with the speaker wire. The speaker wire from the subs will normally be smaller terminals, and it'll say speaker, and then your power and your ground will be a lot bigger. Anyway, that's the overall setup of your subs. Hopefully you can get through with this. Remember, always take your time. It normally takes anywhere between 2 hours, and it's taken up to 6 hours before, depending on how new the vehicle is, how hard it is to take things apart. Of course, you could just run all the wires straight across your vehicle through it, but that looks terrible and it's messy. So actually take your time and hide your wires, make it look nice so you don't see anything, and you should get really good sound. So I wish you guys luck. Please like, share, subscribe, comment if you have any questions or suggestions. Also, don't forget to check out my website, www.noxide.org. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all later.